Hi, we're going to be painting this Scottish loch scene. We're going to start with the sky. I'm going to be using ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, and cerulean blue. I'm going to be cutting into the sky. As you can see here, I'm working in the negative, simply by just really following the contour of the clouds. Here, I just added a little bit of alizarin crimson and water to the same wash I used for the sky, just to give us a little contrast of color between the cloud shadows and the sky color itself. You'll see that I'll be adding areas of warmth and some more darks here and there to accentuate the clouds. Here I'm just adding a little bit of darkness just underneath to sort of ground the clouds, to give them a base. And again, going over them again, you can almost see it has a purpley color, the shadow, alizarin and the cerulean blue mixture. Again, adding just some more. It's still wet. You can tell by the shine on the upper, kind of like in the middle, right near the big cloud on the right. While it's wet, I can keep adding, and and I think at some point I will go back and add some more land. Now here's the base of the mountain. I just want to get a soft edge to start happening here for the next washes to come. Just trying to get a ground, a land mass back there. And here I'm just massing in some of the blue for the water. Just trying to establish some feeling of solidity and water, and leaving just a sliver of the beach there, as you can see. Just letting that all bleed. That's actually going to create the shadows when I go back and reestablish the mountains in the back there. Working that down a little bit more. Don't know why I didn't bring that color all the way down, the blue. I should have. Don't understand why I did not. I guess because I was looking more towards the reflection and adding some other color, but I could have done that while it was all one big mass. So be careful of that. Try to make your big shapes continual. Here I'm drying everything off just so I can apply another layer, or sorry, another wash just over this. And just in the actually the third in from the left is a little bit of a bleed through, but I think I resolve that later on. Here I'm working on the landmass just to try to get this to kind of set back a little bit more, and again to ground that area as well. I think I do leave a little bit of white around the sandy beach area. And I'll probably be adding some color to that later on. Yeah, you have to kind of isolate the shapes. You have to be careful. You have to foresee where your shapes are going to be, and you're going to have to also allow for those little bits of white to pop through. So once it's painted over in a heavy wash, that's it. You know, say goodbye to any of that those opening marks, those little lights that come through. Usually you have to kind of foresee that. Work around those shapes. Say, you know, to yourself, well, where do I want a little sparkle? Where do I want a little luminosity? That helps a lot in areas like trees. And another thing too, you can open up those areas like in here. As I'm working on this wall, I'm leaving some of those whites pop through. Now, I might paint over them later on. They might not be making any sense to what I do to the final, but at least I know that they're there at this stage. It just gives me some air. It opens up that space. Okay, that's very important in watercolor. It adds to the spontaneity of the picture, of the image. Those visual empty shapes really do help your eye to kind of connect the dots and say, wow, there's some little things that are catching a light in a certain way, and there they are. So try to keep those opened up. Don't think that you have to be. If you leave a spot, it's not like you're painting a wall and like, oops, I missed a spot. You want to miss spots in watercolor, okay? Especially in areas that that require a lot of texture, okay? They could be anything. They're great, like if you're doing like a seashore scene where you want to have a little reflection, or leave an area white so you can go back and put like a wash of blue inside, or whatever. It's always good to isolate and let those areas show through. Here I'm just adding, again, I should have bought that that wash all the way over. I don't know why I didn't do that. It was probably, actually, it's funny because this painting was supposed to be a just the sketch, and as I'm working on it, I just developed it to the point where I thought that, well, I think I have enough information here, and there was enough degree of finish, to what I feel is finished, and so I just made this the actual video. This is interesting. This painting is in the back. It's actually on the flip side of another painting, demonstration painting I did, and it's very small. I think it's only like, I don't know, 10 by 12 or so, or 9 by 9, probably 9 by 12. All right, I'm darkening the water, trying to get some contrasts. I found last week I did a plein air painting of a couple of little dinghies by the harbor, and I had to work quick, and my washes had to be dark fast. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to incorporate that here in this demonstration. You could see that these washes were more direct, especially the mountains and the which I'll probably go over, I think, on this, and just add a little bit more texture later on. Just adding some green, starting to liven up the colors a little bit. Working on some of the textures in the back around the shoreline. Adding some secondary colors. Again, just to create some different land masks. Okay. And so I'm working around, going back into the mountains. I'm starting to establish more depth by just adding washes of texture. Not really detail. They're just basically little nuances. One wash that could be just slightly darker than the last one. That's it. You don't need to go in there and paint anything other than what you would see, what your eye would see from a distance, and it would not take in all that information. The foreground, that's another story, but the background, no. Our eyes cannot focus on everything at once. It just doesn't work that way. So here, going back into the house, you see I'm just bouncing around. Once I have that dark in there, I'm trying to look for places where that dark accent would work out. So we try to do that so that we have some unity in shapes and color. So that dark brown was sort of like representing some sea kelp or something, whatever's growing along that lake shoreline. Here I'm trying not to create a web-looking stack of rocks, okay? Try to make your shapes interesting. Try to vary them. You have to remember, I mean, even though this is a man-made stone fence, I'm sure it was thrown together haphazardly. There was no rhyme or reason. So try not to paint, things that are too man-made looking, even if they are. I mean, a wood pile would not look manicured, and neither would a rock pile. Okay, so we have to treat them as such. All right, they're still organic. They're groupings of organic shapes. They're not perfect. We're not. It's not a brick wall, like a red brick wall. All right. So going back to the little house in the back, just adding some, small detail. I think there was a little pen back there where they maybe had some pigs or whatever, some livestock, chickens. And then going back, you see how I just keep moving around. When I have that paint in the brush, you should always try to find places to use it. If they're not just in the front, go move around. The painting should be, you shouldn't obsess in one spot too long. Okay, that is the killer of spontaneity. Okay, and we don't want that. Okay, so there's these little rusted flowers. I don't know what they, probably just wildflowers. They're really pretty, and they would just kind of it was probably ragweed, but whatever it was, it added another color to that background or I'm sorry, the foreground that needed just a little bit more color contrast. And so now I'm back. Okay, so I'm breaking out the Pro White here. This is where I'm working a little bit more opaquely, and I'm trying to define the shoreline in the distance. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. You'll also see that, there might be other spots too where maybe a shape is a little out. I'll go back over that. And here, this is yes, this is an opaque dry brush effect, and I felt that it really needed something there. That shape was a little too stark. It needed texture there. And unfortunately, it was too dark for me to do a dry brush with wash. So the only way I could get that effect, and when I look at my original, I really have to look hard to see if that was a transparent dry brush or an opaque dry brush. And your opaque application should look as though they are not as obtrusive. Okay, so try to make them so that you're not going to put that paint on like you're putting on impasto. There's going to be water, they're going to be wet, but they're not going to be thick. You do not want to see any surface texture whatsoever on a watercolor. Okay, that's another killer of spontaneity. Once you see this big blob of stuff, not really, unless you're Sargent and you can get away with it. He used candle wax as masking, and every once in a while it would come out. Well, here it is, the unveiling. Okay, the pulling of the tape, and there it is. That's our actually, I went back and I think I added some more. I guess I saw something that I didn't see, and there it is, guys. Have a great day. Bye.